Hi there, just a quick video Ollie Pope's comments. I read the other day. He was suggesting that he felt that England fans didn't like him or a certain section of them felt that they didn't like him, and that last year when he was playing India in the home series at Headingley, people were saying, things like it's going to be your last test, or we hope it's your last test, and he was a bit taken aback by that, as England players want to be liked by their own fans. So it's just a quick video about why he got that hostile reception, or he's getting that feeling that England fans don't like him. And I think the answer is really simple. It is in the Bazball era, both that Crawley and Ollie Pope were like the manifestation of all that was wrong with the side. Very kind of now, obviously, I would say Crawley is a much more extreme version, because at least Pope did get hundreds every now and then. Crawley didn't. Crawley was just someone who continually failed. But both of them seemed to be very kind of entitled, and it was like they had a place for life in the side, and they could never be dropped. Now they've both been dropped recently, but at that stage, so for 4 years, they could never be dropped, in spite of poor performances. And that they didn't really need to adapt or change their game. So, for instance, Crawley had obvious weaknesses, never adapted them, never changed, and kept failing and kept shrugging and just saying, people said it. Well, the management said he's not in the side to score runs. With Pope, it was clear he was a very frenetic number three, very jumpy, and he wasn't suited to it. He was a good middle order player years ago. It didn't work at number three, but they kept him there, and then you end up, getting hammered in Australia and like wondering why. Yeah, so the problem really is that there were kind of physical manifestations of the kind of weaknesses of Bazball. I think it's not helped by the fact they're both privately educated, so it gives it. You've got two different kind of prejudices there from fans. One, that, and this one is certainly true, that Baz had his kind of favourites and picked in spite of form, right? So that was true. The other one, it feeds into an idea that a lot of people always have about um, privately educated people playing cricket, and they kind of given preferential treatment, and it looked like a kind of an elite boys club. Especially now, these two things married together. You see, unfortunately. So in the past, maybe in the 50s or 60s, people might say, you're picked on your school tie or whatever. Now, when McCollum said a no dickheads policy, he wasn't talking about like a class structure, but it kind of accidentally fed into that. So Pope and Crawley were the right sort of lads, as it were, and other people weren't. Now, obviously, McCollum didn't mean it in the sense that they were privately educated, but it did feed into this kind of old boys, kind of old boys club. Now, really, like I say, it wasn't meant to be an old boys club in terms of schooling, but it was a kind of club where people couldn't get dropped. And I think that is why there was such hostility from England fans. Now, I think until recently, the only player in the side that didn't go to private school was Stoke. So it would be harsh just to level that accusation at Pope. I think it's just the fact that he failed a lot of the time and was never dropped until recently. And so for 4 years of him being hit and miss, let's say, and 4 years of Crawley just failing, and they never got dropped in that period. And at the same time, the England management saying things like results don't matter, it's just the way they play. And there's a frustration from England fans, I think, that they had players who weren't getting runs, who weren't suited to play in those positions, and were still continually picked, and the sides continued not to win big series. And there was a clear correlation there. And I think that was the reason for the hostility from the fans. I don't think there's a hostility towards Pope himself. Seems quite a nice bloke. It's more the way he plays and the way the management selects the side. I think re Pope, that there was probably a way back for him in terms of if they played him in his right position, the middle order. I think for Crawley, there could be no way back for him. He's just a very limited opener who doesn't get runs. But with Pope, he could come back at 4 or 5 at one day, or 5 or 6, and yeah, probably 5 or 6, and he'll be fine. He really will be. So, but he must. Well, it'll be the job of the new management to instill in him the fact that he has to get runs, and if he does that, he'll be fine. If he doesn't, he won't be selected. So it'll have to be a kind of bit of a moment like in Clockwork Orange, where they kind of um, they've got the person sat down with a kind of and feeding them kind of images, just to kind of make sure they realise what's kind of expected of them.